welcome to our fabulous 50th episode of the Comic Watchers Show. I'm your host, Matt Meyer from Oklahoma City, and with me as usual is the usual gang. Guys, say hello to the kids at home.
Hello to the kids at home.
Hello.
Hi.
And we have a special returning guest for this, our 50th episode. Mr. Cody White is back, making a special appearance.
What's up?
Wow.
Regretting that decision
Honestly,
already.
he's just relieved that he doesn't have to do the hosting spiel anymore, so it's just kind of all coming out now. Cody,
He just realized now he's not hosting again.
That was in the script. You said I was supposed to say what's up. How else do you say what's up if you grew up in the 90s?
It's true. It's true.
Wait.
What up?
Script? I did not get that script.
So we've got a special episode this today because it is our 50th. Yay! We're gonna have a good long talk, a lot of yap. But first of all, we got some quick news hits from New York Comic Con 2019 as of Friday. Brian, what do you got?
Yeah. So right now, as you guys know, the New York Comic Con is happening right now, and of course, well, New York. Our press team has been watching endlessly, and we have a bunch of news. If you want to find out who is going to be writing the new Thor series, head over to comic-watch.com.
Oh, you tease.
I did.
Right? Man, and you're a shameless whore for the site. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So, instead of reviewing a pair, or even 3 books this week, like we normally would, what I proposed, and we kind of talked our way around a little bit, was just having a broader general discussion about why comics. You know, why do we love them? Why do they matter? Why are they worth talking about and analyzing and teaching college courses over, and all of that good stuff? You know, they, to one degree or another, they define all of our lives, or at least are a part of our lives in major and defining ways. Let me rephrase that a little bit. And I just thought it was worth time to step back and pat ourselves on the back a little bit for 50 episodes, almost consecutive in our weeks, and just take stock a little bit and have a good, solid roundtable as to why we love this media. So, Nick, why don't you get us started? I'm going to throw the ball to you first. Sorry, I just happened to look at you.
No, definitely.
So why comics, Nick?
Yeah, it's such a broad question. And I know as soon as we brought it up, my first story is a lot of people that when you're around, when you get into comics, have been into comics for a very long time. And so I lead with the first comic I read was digital. Like, that was how I was exposed to comics, and that's how I got into them. So I have such a different perspective on the medium from a lot of different fans that I've encountered, and it's kind of helped shape my approach to comics in general. And because it's not just one answer of why I like comics. Of course, I think it's one of the most powerful storytelling mediums available, and what you can do with it and what has been done with it, all the characters that have drawn me in. I'm a lore hound, and Marvel and DC know how to play to that. So it's just years and years of lore to explore, and then indie comics happen, and then there's just so much to it. But really, it's the culture. I mean, like, what we're doing now is why comics for me. Like, this is ultimately what I enjoy doing, and this is what I do in my free time. This is how I have fun, and like, this group of people and what comics has brought me to, and what it has exposed me to is really amazing. And I never thought that it would happen. I joined Comic Watch a couple years ago just because I typed such long messages in Facebook groups, like, discussing these books, that I was like, I could write a review pretty quick. Like, I'm doing it multiple times a day right now. Like, and this was a platform that I didn't think was coming my way. And it happened. I just kind of took it and ran with it. And it has really defined why comics for me, this whole journey with Comic Watch, because it's opened me up to so many different books. Listening to Cody and John and really Matt just talk about like all these years, just labeling decades back and what happened like 1 year and then 10
Not
years
that
back
many
and then
decades.
20 years back. And like I can't do that right now, but I've been reading for 10 years
Consider
now.
yourself
It's
lucky.
just like it's been so much to take in, and it's all been so wonderful, really. Like everything that comics brings with it, and the culture, and what it brings to people. And I think that's the power behind it, and that's what keeps people engaged for so long. And it really brings people together in a strange way. So I think that's been the most important thing that I've noticed, like why I've been so obsessed with it for so long. And of course, stories like The Walking Dead happen that I feel like just shatter what I think can do, what comics can do. I mean, they lied on solicitations for the next 3 months to pull this ending off. I mean, these are the things that like get me talking. And like what you can do with this medium is just so brilliant. And the people that it has brought with it to do that, like this is what I can talk about with everybody, and they understand the shock. And just the momentum it brings and the excitement. So like comics to me is very much the people behind it. And that's been one of the most fun parts really to explore. Um, when I dove into comics, the best advice that was given to me was read what you love or read what sounds enjoyable, because a lot of people like to go into speculation and start trying to flip comics and think there's a ton of money in it, but I was really just there for the storytelling. And I was exposed to just whatever I thought was cool. I started with cool covers, and we joked about it when I dove into Preacher. I still follow that. I still like this looks super cool, and I would probably like this. So I picked up volume 1 and 2 of Preacher, and then issues 34 and 32, I think, just because they had some cool covers, and I was dive into that, and I'll start picking up more. Like it's fun, and like this type of storytelling and what the medium offers just plays right along to what I want. And it just so happens that I can come home with that and like get with a group of people who also share that love and just really cool stuff. So that's really the main thing that I focused on here lately, especially with like putting so much of my time into Comic Watch and helping it and contributing so much. I've noticed that what people give to comics is really what's kept me around. And now reading a dozen comics a day is just part of my life. And that comes along with it. You never expect that to be a thing, but it just happens. And you're keeping up with everything, and you're keeping up with the people and the conversations that are happening on social media and all the current news. And it's almost overwhelming, but it's too much fun to separate with. And that's ultimately why I'm here. But Cody, I know that you've got a lot to say, so let's probably go ahead and dive into yours.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks for having me back. I definitely miss doing the podcast. My schedule really doesn't allow for it right now. Even right now, it's a little awkward, but here I am. It's the 50th episode. I helped start this thing. I needed to be here. So yeah, I think early in the series, I actually talked a little bit about how I came to comics, like almost as soon as I could read. My family was very much into garage sale culture. We were not a wealthy family, but if I saw comics, as soon as I could read at a garage sale, a stack of comics for $2 or whatever, I was in. So I was reading a lot of 70s Cap and Falcon and Journey into Mystery and Mighty Thor and you know early 80s Batman, stuff like that. So that's how I came to comics. Why I stayed with comics is a whole different story. Like people talk about writing the great American novel, right? It's the big joke. How can you write the great American novel until the American empire eventually collapses? Action Comics is the great American novel. It's already here. It's being written, and it's being written as we move through our time. So 1,015 issues of Action Comics at this point tells the story of the United States. Like, these books always reflect the current discourse. So whether that is we're in a state of distress, whether we're at war or at peace, whether we're adapting to technology or lack of resources or what have you, this is telling our story on a monthly, bi-weekly, sometimes even weekly basis. And there is nothing in the history of literature that does that in the way that comics does. You know, you can talk about The Simpsons and, you know, Family Guy and various other cartoon media that kind of does that. But then you have to factor in the narrative control, right? The difference between film and comics is that in film, all sorts of film, the narrative pace is controlled by the director. In comics, it's controlled by the reader. No other medium allows the reader as much control as comics does. There's no strict paragraph structure. You know, you can say, you know, there's a specific order you're supposed to read panels in, but there really isn't. You read the panels as your eye catches them. So for every reader, that experience is different. I mean, that's just a marvelous thing to think about. This is an absolutely unique medium. And when it comes to superhero comics, it's an absolutely distinct United States of America medium. Like, we don't have a whole lot of things that we can really put our flag in the ground and say, nah, we made this. Superhero comics, jazz and blues, end of list.
Rock
Like
and roll, baby.
Maybe.
No,
I
maybe.
mean, rock and roll has distinct African roots. It has distinct UK roots. Like, you can make the argument maybe for rock and roll. Blues and jazz, I mean, it's a definite.
Oh yeah,
But
different
But I mean-
conversation.
But I mean, as far as like absolutely saying we created this, we sustained it and nurtured it and brought it into the world and brought it onto a global scale, like that's it. We don't have a whole lot to claim. But I mean, there's just the power of storytelling in comics to me has always struck me, even before I realized why it struck me. And you know, as I've gone on and I've gotten degrees essentially in comics, I've been able to kind of more develop this notion of this is the American mythology. Like, Superman is an American god. Batman is an American god. Thor has become an American god, right or wrong, however you want to look at that. Captain America is an American god. Like, there's Spider-Man, absolutely an American god, and he is one of the most globally recognized superheroes in the world. Like, that's something that really lends a literary credence to the art form. I mean, this is a lowbrow medium, as in this is meant for the masses. And I mean, with the advent of the internet, thank you, Al Gore, you know, there's a lot more gatekeeping to the medium than there was before. But I mean, this was a medium that was meant to be distributed, to be shared, to go out to everybody. Comics are for everyone. So screw the gatekeepers. Anytime somebody says you shouldn't be reading comics, punch them in the face like they were a Nazi. No problem with that at all. I fully endorse that.
Even if it's my mom.
Even if it's your mom, man.
Okay.
Mom's
You
got
hear it
to
Extra
folks.
if it's your mom.
get checked once in a while.
You put up
Like-
with her shit for long enough.
This is
Screw you, Mom. I own a house now.
highbrow media is for the elite. Lowbrow media is for the masses. And it is always in lowbrow media, whether we're talking about Sophocles writing broad media plays back in 3000 BC, or Tom King writing Batman. I don't care. Like, this is for the masses, and it is meant for the people. So gatekeeping has no business here, but this is where our myths come from. This is where our gods come from as a society. And to me, nobody has done it better than comics. I think that's enough of a rant. I mean, I could go on for hours, but why don't I kick it to Brian?
Jesus, damn it. Okay. Hey.
Speaking of gods.
Hey.
No, because I was like, how the hell am I gonna follow up with Cody? Maybe I'll go to JJ and then I can go back into mode. So I mean, as Cody did mention, we did kind of cover this a little bit in one of our earlier episodes with pretty much a whole different cast.
I'm still here.
Yeah. Are you though? Are you? So for me, how I got into it, it was originally in the early 90s when the X-Men animated series was there. I remember getting a pizza and then getting a box or a DVD of the first 2 episodes of it. And it also came with a little comic book. That was my introduction to comics. I watched it at my grandparents' house as I ate pizza and probably got pizza sauce all over their white furniture. However, I actually still have that comic book that was attached to it and those 2 VCRs or VCR tapes. I don't have a VCR, but I have a VCR tapes, as that is. So what got me into it was a lot of times during that age, I was kind of moved around a lot. I wasn't ever in the same space. I never was living in the same home or with the same people. With that being said, the one thing that was consistent was comic books. Like, I was able to watch them on Saturday, and then I'd be able to read kind of in between. And no matter where I was, those were always there. So it kind of was kind of a home to me. I was able to take solace in just reading other people's adventures, reading other people's, lives and their difficulties. And sometimes I was able to relate to one character more than the other because of their story, what they were going through. So for me, that's what kept me going. What ended up getting me to kind of comic watch was because I met like-minded people who loved comics for one reason or the other. And I'll tell you, we sit there and argue for hours about a comic book that we both, one will like, one will hate, etc. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we're still having that conversation.
He's not kidding. Hours of argumentation.
We argued for 2 days about Vampirella recently.
We did. I was about to say, sometimes it extends into days where it's just we go to sleep and wake up.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Like looking up photo reference,
Yeah. So I mean that
sales
is part
statistics.
Yeah. Yeah, we go deep. Like, it's not just about the story or the character. It turns into the creators and who created them. And then at some point you just drop off and be like, okay, they're going to continue for a few days. With that being said, I think that comic book creates a family and creates a safe place for a lot of people. And that's what keeps me. And I hope that somebody, I mean, if you're going through something, I'm sure you can pick up almost any comic book and find something that you can relate to in it. And I think that's what makes this industry such a great industry that it is. It's very unique. And I don't think any other industry can really say that it touches as many lives as it does, like comics do. That's it. What about you, JJ? Steal the show. It's on you.
Oh, what? Why comics? It's
Well, you're making
it's an
some
interesting.
right now. That should be
I'm
noted.
literally drawing a comic right now.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question, but really, like Cody said, there's no medium like comic books. 1 minute. Sorry, son is calling me. He chose literally this exact moment to call. He heard me start talking. Um, but so the way I got into comics was when I was a kid. My dad wasn't around very much, and interestingly enough, if you look at pictures of my dad at approximately 1993, he bears a striking resemblance to Michael Keaton, who coincidentally was starring in Batman films at the time. So I, at approximately kindergarten age, watched an episode or a VHS tape. That's the correct word for that, by the way, Brian. Of Batman '89 so many times that it stopped working. And then, as soon as I was possibly able to do so, a few years later, I started getting trade paperbacks back when Barnes & Noble had a very, very limited selection of trade paperbacks. Usually it was like the same 10, 12 Batman trade paperbacks, and maybe one like Kingdom Come when it came out was one. I still have my 1998 edition of Kingdom Come. I think it was 98, 99. I'd have to look at it. It's trashed now. And I have a couple trade paperbacks left from that era. Year One, Dark Knight Returns, that old crappy one with the half yellow crappy cover. But I didn't always have the most friends or most people around, but comics were always there, and they still are. I've been watching a lot of Bob Ross. But I will say, as an adult, now that I'm able to afford more comics, goodness, I have a lot of comics. And wow, do they take up a lot of space? But it's an amazing adventure, and it's interesting to see how far you can go and what you can do, and it's genuinely shocking how comprehensively you can get into stuff, especially after reading comics for 24 years. But there'll probably be another 24. I don't know, maybe 10.
What are you implying?
Maybe I don't just eat pizza every day and drink all day because I want to live forever. That's for sure.
I was gonna say the industry is healthy. Forget what
that's not what
says.
I meant at all.
The industry is healthy.
Oh, I think this industry
John
will
Jack
never
is
die.
not healthy.
No, I am not. I was actually, interestingly and tangentially, because I don't think I have much to say that you guys didn't say. Interestingly, I was trying to picture a world where, like, Marvel decided to just up and stop publishing comics, and I don't think it could happen. Like, I don't think, like, it's like Cody was saying, these aren't like these characters may belong in a proprietary sense to a company, but I don't think there is going to be a world without Spider-Man comics or Superman comics ever. Just simply because, like, Marvel might stop publishing them, but I mean, there's fan comics being made now and there's comics being published, like, I don't think there will be a world without comics. And that's good.
The genie is out of the bottle.
Yeah, exactly.
We may need to go to the Morlock tunnels to get them, but they'll still be around.
It's like
Dude, nice
talks about the once the author or the creator has let the character out into the world, it's not necessarily solely theirs anymore.
Oh no.
And I don't think we'll ever see a world without some kind of comics.
I don't disagree with that.
But yeah.
Well, and even your efforts that you're putting towards right now of making your own comics. I mean, dude.
Oh yeah.
Keep doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Publish them online. Put them on Facebook posts.
Oh, these things. I don't care if I got a Kickstarter it. I'm getting this shit printed. I'm working way too hard to.
Hell yeah.
How I've been spending all my time.
And do that's
today's
awesome.
work after we get done. It's gonna be a splash page.
Love it. Awesome.
Um,
Well, I think
so-
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you done?
Yeah, I think I've been done. I think I started done.
There was that little hesitation and trail off at the end that made me think you had a poetic epilogue. But
No, I was looking at timing.
no worries. I think my why on comics is this might sound a little cheesy. I don't care. It's late for me. Is that comics are the story of me, you know? They've always been this underdog medium, or at least in terms of public perception, and unjustly derided as the cause of delinquency, or just pulp trash, or just trash, or kids stuff. And in short, they've been always underestimated. And we're seeing this moment, culturally speaking, right now, where comics are mainstream cool right now. Now, that's more the characters than the physical comics, I'm convinced, because the number of issues sold for the last issue of Avengers is nothing compared to ticket sales for Avengers Endgame. But the characters are out there. They're part of the culture and part of the mainstream. And, I can remember the first comic I can remember reading. I was probably about 6 or 7 years old. And it was one of my uncle's old Jimmy Olsen's, number 112, The Elastic Lad versus the Ugly Superman. And it's just one of the perfect Silver Age comics you can imagine. Jimmy Olsen drinks his Elastic Lad serum and somehow or another gets into this wrestling match with a series of outlandish characters that he has to outthink and out-wrestle. And then the final one is this ugly Superman with cauliflower ears and a boxer's nose and et cetera, et cetera. And I just loved it. And like anytime I was at my grandparents' house, I would read this thing multiple times. And, as I got a little older, a couple issues of G.I. Joe got in the mix. And as I loved my G.I. Joes, damn it, it's the 80s. And then, damn right. And still have all my G.I. Joes, by the way, the toys, and the comics. And eventually a copy of X-Men #1 landed in my hands, and it was just like, oh my God, these people, they're outsiders and outcasts, and whoa, this is crazy. I have to know more. And that was it. And, it was all Marvel for a few years, and then gradually a couple DC books. Shout out to Peter David, Aquaman, and Kyle Rayner. And Spawn and Savage Dragon got in the mix eventually. And then the grown-up stuff started. And, Grant Morrison and Warren Ellis and Alan Moore. And it was like, yeah, man. And then I read Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, though, I think was the true watershed.
I'm reading Making Comics by Scott McCloud right now.
I think everyone should read those 2 volumes and Reinventing Comics, all by Scott McCloud.
I think you can skip Reinventing Comics. I'm just saying, I love Scott McCloud, but Reinventing Comics didn't pan out the way he thought it would.
It didn't, but I think he made a good, educated guess for the time.
Sure, absolutely.
It's still smart with a lot of thought put into it. And I can't knock it for being an invalid prediction in a lot of ways, but it is what it is. But it was understanding comics that really changed the game for me, because I started to look at them not just in terms of content or characters, both of which I loved, or even the creators, but the actual craft behind it. And, I was probably about 19, 20, and I was like, I think I can do this. And, there for a few years, I really banged out some scripts and tried to even start a little publishing company with people who were, turned out, not as committed as me. So it goes. And, then life just happened and it never happened, but comics never went away. This scrappy underdog thing that was part of my life. And I just love the media. For all the reasons that you guys said, the diversity of the titles. I don't think we've ever been in a period in comics history
because
where
they look like my dad.
Diversity. Good one. There's so much diversity in content. I mean, especially when you throw manga into the mix, there's just literally something for everybody right now. I don't care who you are. And that's awesome. And, I feel like now, almost a year into my journey with Comic Watch, I'm at a point now where I'm actively giving back to the comics, not just the comics community, but the comics industry itself, after so many years of what it's given to me. And I'm contributing to the conversation in my own small way, and sometimes very verbose way. And, it's part of me. It's part of my DNA, and it's part of who I am, and it's not going anywhere, just like it's not going anywhere in our global culture. They're just not. Like I was saying, the genie's out of the bottle. So, I mean, why comics? Because they're fucking awesome. And why not, damn it? So, guys, I mean, I know this is kind of like a high-minded, let's just, shoot the shit a little bit and have some real honest discussion. But do you guys have any closing thoughts or anything like that?
Yeah, like to touch on what both Cody and John mentioned, the power of this storytelling. These are American gods. This is how we tell our stories of ourselves, and this is why, like Matt, we're able to find ourselves in them. And they'll never go anywhere because we're always going to be telling these stories. And it's part of what makes my experience so interesting when compared to people like Cody's and John's and Matt's that go back for so far. Is we've been telling these stories in so many different ways, and the craft is so involved. But I was approached to it or exposed to it in a totally different way on my tablet. And I think that's just an example of how we're going to keep telling these stories in the future, and however that medium presents itself or is exposed to an audience can never stop because of the power of the medium itself. And these stories will just last. And that long lasting sense is what pulls us around and what keeps us going and keeps us engaged with the industry and the community and what the content brings us. Mm-hmm. It's just really cool to see such a comprehensive approach in just this group and these different perspectives on what the industry and the community can do for people. Just great stuff.
Well, and I think it's interesting that you bring up the digital platform that you got into it on, because I remember, and you, Cody and Brian and JJ, you guys probably remember this too, is when digital comics were first really starting to make a splash. Everybody was talking about, this is it. This is the thing. This is the end of the printed comic as we know it. This is the death knell. And the lone voice of sanity was Mark Waid, never one who's afraid to speak his mind. I remember this clear as day, and he's like, no, it's not. I embrace it. And he was shunned so hard by a lot of people. And he was right. In the end, it wasn't the death knell of paper comics. What it did was it opened up a whole new frontier for people. Like my dad reads stuff on his tablet, and he's like, yeah, I would never go to the store and pick up a comic, but I'll read it here on my tablet. And hell yeah, I love hearing stories like that. So the more media we can find, or ways we can find to consume it, whether it's print or digital or transposed into film, uh, it let's go for it. Let's keep getting it out there. And as long, because the thing of it is there's so many strong archetypal characters out there that are able to shoulder the load, that it's created a space where the weirder, quirkier characters like Rocket Raccoon or Hellboy are able to stand out and also make their mark. So, and it just speaks to the strength of the characters and the media itself, that it's able to be, it's able to be seen and consumed in so many different ways and still have the same inherent meaning behind it without losing anything. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that y'all touched on that I didn't really touch on was coming to Comic Watch, right? Like that was almost a watershed moment for me. I had finished the coursework for a PhD at a school that I couldn't stand. I won't name them. And most of my coursework was in comics. My master's degree was in comics. And I was here in Hawaii as a stay-at-home dad, and I could feel my writing skills atrophying. And it was right about that time that Tyler Roulette, the former CEO of Comic Watch, reached out to me on the message boards in the Age of X-Men group. If you're not in the Age of X-Men group and you're an X-Men fan, go check it out on Facebook. It's a great group. It's strictly monitored. It's only for comics, which I thought was a really interesting approach to things. So he reached out to me and was like, hey, are you interested in writing reviews? And this was something that when I was an undergrad, my wife had mentioned to me, you should write comic reviews. You talk about them all the time. You will write to anybody that asks exactly what you think of a book. Why aren't you doing this for real? And, I tried to have my own blog for a little bit, and school got in the way and life got in the way, whatever. So he reached out and I saw that and I was like, yeah, right? Why don't I do that? So I joined Comic Watch, and it wasn't 9 months later that I was running the review team for Comic Watch. Like I basically created a position for myself and then occupied it. And
in fairness, everyone else in the community in the position quit.
Well, eventually, yes. So
you made it to the top by sheer sticklerness.
Right. So I mean, this has been a great outlet for me, and as we grow and as we mature as a company, the reaction and the response from the industry, not just the fandom. I mean, the fandom's great, don't get me wrong, we love you guys, but the industry has embraced us. I mean, just today we had Superfan Productions reach out to us to do an interview with the author artist of a Rod Serling of Twilight Zone fame, a memoir about him. And like the fact that they are reaching out to us at this point, I mean, that shows that we're all of us at Comic Watch are passionate about this medium, and people are seeing it inside the industry. I mean, that means the world to me. Like there have been times, I'm not going to lie to you, there have been times where I was like, I don't know. Man, Comic Watch is a lot of work. Like maybe I could be watching Top Chef right now. But at the end of the day, like we're making a difference. Like Matt said, like we're giving back in our small way to the community that has given so much to us. And I think that really, really shows in the work that we're doing. I don't know where I'm going with this, but Comic Watch is just friggin' awesome. trying to censor myself, Nick. I'm sorry. I'm trying real hard.
Like absolutely.
You tried
like,
better than I did.
No, I agree
Work that we
completely.
do.
Like, just fuck that entirely. Comic Watch is why comics for me. It really summarizes that question and what comics do for my life and what they offer and what they continue to bring. And just like since joining Comic Watch, I've noticed like I thought I had a passion for it where it kept me on social media like all the time talking about it. I didn't think it could get worse, but oh goodness. It has grossly overtaken my life and I love it. So that is why comics.
Yeah, that is why comics. Like it's brought such a disparate group together. We just added 3 new female writers to the writing team, with a couple more.
Oh yeah, we're always hiring if anybody wants to write. By the way,
Yeah,
always.
absolutely.
We don't care
Like,
if you can't write. I can't write. I'm a 10th grade dropout. Whatever, dude.
If you're passionate about comics, reach out, because that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build a platform where people that love the medium write about the medium, and people that give a crap about facts write the news. And I think that's what separates us from
Also,
the
Brian
greater
writes the news.
from the greater pack. Like we're not sitting here typing up, oh, well, maybe the X-Men will have Cassandra Nova as Professor X. That's news. Like, no, we're not trying to throw darts at a dartboard and hope we hit. Like, we're actually vetting the news. We're paying attention to what's going on. And I think that's really the strength of this company. So if you feel the same way, reach out to us, because we are open to talking to anybody. It's a good group of people. That's a damn good group of people. JJ included.
Whatever, bro. I'm out of here.
You're not published yet, fool. We own your ass. But I get first crack at an interview when you do get published.
Whatever, bro.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, I think, Brian, did you have any closing thoughts? No? Okay. B is a man of few words. So, well, hey, I think we pretty well nailed down why comics. So, this has been fun. We're going to have to think really hard to do something similarly themed for our 100th episode next year.
Why not movies?
Why porgs? We'll have a conversation about them. So, okay, let's move on into our closing segment. What have you been reading? What are you looking forward to? B, what you got?
This is always so unfair.
I know.
No, so actually, I haven't pretty much read anything this week. I've been really busy. My real life is getting involved right now. I'm getting, I set up my unit so it could open. We just got inspected by state today. So we are officially opening my doors to my unit. So that's what I've been focusing on. Like Comic Watch.
You said unit like 3 times.
I know, because I was, yeah. Well, it's better than JJ is a dick 3 times.
It's
like the 17th time I've heard that today.
It might
like
be
5
you at
from
this
you.
point.
Yeah. Well, you wear it well. All right. I mean, that's pretty much all I've done. What I'm looking forward to is probably Hellmouth, I think, is coming out.
Yeah.
It's going to be sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Cody, how about you?
So for what I've been reading, last week was my birthday.
Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you. So the parents and my wife's parents always send Amazon gift cards, and I usually spend that on books. So one of the things that I've been reading is But I Digress. It's a collection of all of Peter
I thought you were
David's
digressing.
all of Peter David's comics buyer guide columns back in the day.
Oh wow.
Including all of the ones that he wrote under his pseudonym, where he was really like legitimately just trolling people before trolling was a thing.
The
It's
pseudonyms Peter David is awesome.
it's absolutely amazing. It's something like Chalker. Yeah, the Chalker papers, where he would just put out stuff like
that's clever as hell.
Yeah, it's great. And also, I picked up this beauty.
Ooh.
This is the absolute Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, Green Arrow, Green Lantern run. And it is just stunning. I mean, absolutely stunning. And, this is a run that I felt passionate about. I own the floppies for about half of this run. And I've read, I think, all of this run, but not all together. And reading it all together, I mean, these guys were 20 years ahead of their time. Like, the social commentary is absolutely unreal. Loving it. So that's what I've been reading. As far as what I'm looking out for, Powers of X #6. We're finally hitting the end of the Hickman introduction to the entire Dawn of X era. And I'm totally on board for it. Like, I know there are some things that he's done that are slightly cliche. There are some things that he's done that are slightly overwrought. And at the end of the day, I don't really care. Like, this has put X-Men back where it belongs. And I think I speak for the vast majority of us, well, 3/5 of us, when I say that X-Men was a major milestone in our collecting careers. And we grew up, because the three of us are slightly older, in an era where X-Men reigned supreme. And it hasn't been that way for 15 years. Like, X-Men really fell out of the sales charts. I mean, the last really arguably sustained sales performance book was Uncanny X-Force. And that was, by the end, a top 50 book. But when we were kids in the 90s, like, if Uncanny X-Men wasn't #1, Matt is older. He just asked who is older. Matt's the oldest. Not
Less
me.
than a month, but still.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that month.
Hey.
But yeah, if Uncanny X-Men wasn't #1, or if X-Men wasn't #1, like, it was shocking when with that 1 month where Spawn was #1. Everyone was like, "What? How did that happen? That doesn't make any sense."
Man have big cape. Wow.
Is Todd McFarlane.
Toddy
But yeah, so I mean, the return of X-Men to the top of the charts, to me, is remarkable. Not a single issue of House of X or Powers of 10 has sold under 100,000 copies. In the modern market, that is absolutely unparalleled. Yeah, I mean, just remarkable. I can't wait to see what comes next. I'm a little trepidatious about the upcoming Dawn of X titles. I think half of them will succeed, half of them will fail. But I mean,
well, they've got some more slated for next year.
Right.
So even if Fallen Angels or whatever fails, there's more to come. There's
Right,
always more X-Men.
Whichever one Hill's writing.
You mean the one
Wasn't
I'm
Ben Percy
reviewing?
writing one?
It's Hill, Dugan, Leah Williams, Ed Brisson.
Which one is Dugan writing?
Dugan is writing Marauders. Yeah.
All right, I'll probably read that one, or whichever one Brisson's writing.
Brisson is co-writing New Mutants for the first 6 issues, and then he's taking over. And he's bringing in the Gen X kids. Like, how can you not be excited for that? As a 90s kid, at least. Like, Mondo and Chamber on the New Mutants. Yeah, I'm in. You got
better
me.
find a way to bring Skin back in.
Yeah, that dude's been dead for a while.
I
Yeah.
know. Thank you, Chuck Austin.
Yeah, Chuck Austin's the worst.
Why he's unemployed.
But we saw Sync. We saw
Chuck
Sync.
Austin's one of our 10 listeners. He's like, oh.
Everett back in the house.
This show made me feel connected to the comic scene.
Why doesn't anybody like me?
You know what? I will give Chuck Austin his due. His War Machine black and white series on Marvel Max was dope. And then he took over X-Men. And then what happens. But his War Machine was great.
Now, if Cody sees him in an elevator, he gonna fight him.
Would anybody like to get out? All right, that's enough from me. I'm sorry. I've missed you guys. Really, honestly, the scheduling thing has been killing me. But I'm really glad to be here today. B, what are you looking forward to, and what have you been reading? Did you already go?
He
Hell
did.
no.
You already go.
Yeah.
JJ.
I literally drew an entire page while you were talking, by the way.
I'm confident. Yeah.
It's a pretty light page, but still. Oh my goodness. Let's see.
Wait,
what
are we
have I
allowed
been-
to drink on this show? On this
I-
episode? No? Yes?
Were we
Yes?
ever told not to?
I didn't
Let's see.
say not to. I choose not to because the one I did, I sucked on.
I'm a guest.
I read Bloodshot.
Nice.
Many other books. Very good books. As for what did I really like this week? There was something I really liked. Punisher Kill Crew, number 3. I think that was last week. Was amazing. That's actually 100% the reason I'm excited for Dugan on X-Men. I've liked him on a few things, but Punisher Kill Crew is arguably the best thing I've ever read by Jerry Dugan. And I've read a few things I liked by Jerry Dugan. He did a Savage Sword of Conan arc early in the year that wasn't bad. It wasn't great. He did the 3-issue War of the Realms Punisher series that was decent. A few other things. Dead Rabbit is good. Now it's Dead Eyes. The first issue of that came out this week. There we go. There's something I read. Which is just a heads up for people who bought Dead Rabbit about a year ago? Was it a year ago? B?
About
Yeah,
a year.
finished.
People who bought Dead Rabbit, it is just a reprint of Dead Rabbit with all the words Dead Rabbit switched over to Dead Eyes. So I personally will be picking it up starting at issue 3 because I got the first 2 obviously when they came out last time. Just a little bit of advice. As for what I'm looking forward to, I don't know what's coming up. Donny Cates on Thor. Oh no, I spoiled these teas.
It's also not for 3 more months, but you know.
Yeah, they were probably gonna figure it out before then. Yeah, the Donny Cates on Thor. I'm excited for. Ewing on Guardians of the Galaxy. Decent. Probably cool. Neat stuff. Oh, I did get the first 9 issues of the 1995 series, Superman: The Man of Tomorrow, in the mail today.
Slowly filling in those diamond issues.
Oh, are you in for a surprise? It's not good.
Oh, I didn't think it was good. Who is it? It's Chuck Austin, isn't it? No, it's Roger Stern. That's right. Yeah, I'm not excited.
It's probably Roger Stern's worst work.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it only lasted for 18 issues when Superman was selling like 80,000 copies.
Well, remember, it was a quarterly book. It was only on the schedule to plug the 5th week gap so that they could keep the weekly rotation on the diamond.
Yeah,
Right.
but
Right.
Triangle Era. Yeah, no. The trouble is, I'm trying to do the entire Triangle Era. So yeah, it goes like 1995 week 28, and then 1995 week 41, and then 1995 week 50. Like it's every 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know,
it was
fill those
rough.
Triangle Era gaps. There's going to be a lot of rough stuff by the time I've collected all 11 years of Superman.
Oh yeah. Wait till you get to Superman Red, Superman Blue.
I have like half of that already. I haven't read it yet.
It's not great.
Definitely not good.
It's a little bit inflated because post and pre-Triangle era issues are counted with that are in the same series. But I've got 700 plus issues of post-Crisis Superman right now.
That's pretty awesome, actually. It's a lot of Superman.
And that's it's only like half of the Triangle era stuff. There's one guy in my comics only group that well, Cody's talking about comics only groups. There is someone in my comics only group who got all the Triangle eras. He said it's like 2,000 issues, which sounds about right.
Wow.
I mean, it's 52 weeks worth of Superman for 11 years. I mean, I guess I could literally do like some pretty easy math and figure it out, but I'm not gonna. It's probably like 1,300 issues. So I'm actually probably surprisingly not far off. Oddly enough, the easiest ones to get were what?
It's actually much lower than you think it is. It's 572.
Oh, that doesn't
So
sound true.
I think your math is faulty.
Okay, well I do have 700 issues.
Still a lot of Superman.
Right,
So I'm pretty
but
close.
some of that was not Triangle era.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying because I have probably 100 from pre, and then it ended in 2002, and all the post-crisis still went for 2011. So there's another. I have a lot from like 2004, also.
Yeah.
But Superman.
Yay. Nick, how
Gotta get
about
all
you?
that Superman.
Okay, so yeah, I guess what I've been reading, I got into Preacher, and that finally is a thing now for me, and I'm excited that is a thing. I know I mentioned it in Y Comics. These types of stories are Y Comics for me. I love Marvel and DC, I really do, and I love Batman and Superman but these types of stories are what keeps me really excited, and like I was able to pull them while I was talking. Like buying this type of book is exactly what I go to a comic store for, and it's slightly controversial. My comic store here in East Texas had only 18 and up older allowed to buy Preacher books, and I I thought that type of sentiment is, it's these types of books are what I'm going to gravitate to.
It basically takes place in your town.
It basically is. It's
true.
way too close
You
to
live
home.
in Anvil.
Yeah, like the farther I get into it, I'm like, yeah, like maybe they did a little bit too much research for this book. But I like Preacher, I think that's like epitomizes what I love about comics. I discover stories like that you guys are already so excited about, and it's always just like, just wait, like so many great things are in your future, and it's always great when books like this come true. And like I've read book one, and it's just so great, like so many good things, and I'm just dying to keep going. I also read The Plot from Vault, and this is a company that has been doing really, really cool stuff. I gave the Savage Swords a 10 out of 10. I'm going to do an arc review because the last issue 5, comes out on the 9th. So I'm going to revisit that. But Vault also, they came out with, it's just called The Plot. And I bought the cover swipe of House of Secrets 92 just because I had to have it. But it is one of the better horror stories that I've read in comics lately. I've been sorely missing it with the end of The Walking Dead. I'm really on that because it's October now, and I'm really missing it, so I'm going through withdrawals. So I've found a great horror with The Plot and what Vault is
Check
doing.
out Harrow County.
I saw that. I'm gonna have to get into that. Yeah, Preacher happened right when I saw that you had suggested Harrow County, and that's kind of consumed my reading lately. But I saw The Plot's got a pretty big presence at New York Comic Con. They had a limited edition gold cover that was like $100 that I was right there at buying, and I ended up committing to it. And by the time I hit purchase, it was already sold out. But
Wow.
that type of thing, I wanted it. But it's just such a great book. You have to go check it out. Any type of horror, it's classic monster and just everything you want in horror. Just super cool stuff.
It's written by Michael Moretti, who is also writing like 3 other books for Vault, including Wasted Space, which is a bestseller in Vault's first ongoing series, and has art by Joshua Hickson, who recently drew Shanghai Red, which is arguably my favorite miniseries of 2018.
You took
Amazing.
the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah. And
Must
like
have
to
been
me,
what you were kissing me. Oh, wait.
well,
Well, I missed something.
yeah. Thanks for bringing up the creative team, though. I mean, they really are super amazing in this book. When I read it,
I was pestering them for preview panels like at least 10 months ago. Hickson was sharing. He initially was sharing roughs of the cover like the week Shanghai Red ended, which was like November 2018, and I've been bothering them for stuff ever since. Like,
Yeah,
hey
I
man,
was
I read news. Can I get an exclusive of some kind? Can you give me any kind of heads up what you're doing? And they kept saying no, and it's because it's like one of the more hyped books Vault's ever put out.
Right.
But don't say I didn't.
Yeah, I
pester.
saw you had scored an early advance review, and I was super excited to do the review over it, and it went over really well. And like when I finished reading it, it immediately made me think of The Haunting of Hill House. It's easy to get obsessed with, and I think a lot of people have done that. It's why it's gotten the hype it's gotten, and I really think that it's just one of those books.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, not to be dismissive, but it's shockingly well. It's shocking how well it's doing, considering, it's a smaller publisher and it's not like an ultra famous creative team, but like the book it's on its own legs really when you think about it. Like there is some momentum behind Vault right now. They've got a couple TV shows coming out pretty soon.
And I think
I
Heathen's
saw
going to be made into a movie.
I saw, was it Vita Ayala shared a trailer for Vagrant Queen, which is going to be a sci-fi.
The teaser recently dropped for that one. They got a movie for that one, and they've got a TV series for Vagrant Queen, and then a movie for Heathen. And I put down the plot, and I thought immediately, like, this one lends itself really well to any type of film adaptation. And I know Vault's in that game, so we'll see.
Yeah, they're hitting the ground hard. I'm really impressed with Vault lately.
Yeah.
Again, not to be dismissive, they're a great publisher. It's just
like
they're stepping up their game, and it's so impressive.
Yeah,
I remember like 2 years ago they were like 2 years ago they had, or maybe 3 years ago they had like 2 maybe 3 books. They had Reactor, which was pre-Marvel Donny Cates.
Yeah.
A 3-issue vampire apocalypse mini. And then there was it was after the Dark Horse Repo series, but before was that Paybacks, which was Donny Cates and Elliot Ray Hall and Jeff Shaw before God Country, which was Image, obviously. But that was one of the earlier Vault series that I remember seeing. And before that, there was Alien Bounty Hunter, which I liked. That was, I don't know, 3.5 years ago. They were really cool. But even over the last couple of years, they've had a few great series. They had Submerged. They had Deep Roots, which is really cool.
And oh wait, no, never mind.
And then there's Vagrant Queen, obviously. Savage Shores, which Nick gave a 10 out of 10 to. Great stuff.
And and I guess what I'm looking forward to has got to be Spawn 301. Gonna break the record. Everybody knows about it. If you don't know about
Sim's just sitting around going, "Damn it!"
like if you don't know Spawn by now, like, come on, where are you at? Check out Spawn 301. It's coming.
The guy that publishes the book made sure that it stayed in run long enough to beat Dave Sims. All right, whatever. I missed that episode. I'm gonna go ahead.
Yeah,
and
we missed it.
Like, come on! I'm the publisher. I made sure that we broke the record. Dave Sims worked his balls off to hit 300 issues. Todd McFarlane just had to show up to work.
Like, no way Todd McFarlane didn't work his ass off on Spawn. Like, he's 100%. Like,
he handed over art duties for 180 issues. Come on.
Yeah, like, no doubt, but there's, like, to just totally dismiss of what he's done with Spawn. Like, come on.
I would love it if he canceled it at 302.
Totally dismissing it. Sorry, Todd Father. Totally dismissed.
Issue 302. All right, left goal hit. Book's canceled. It wasn't it wasn't a new beginning. It was an epilogue, suckers.
They asked him when Spawn is going to end, and his response is, when does Batman end? Like, what he's created with this character is not meant for him to do it on his own for 300 issues. It's not meant to end with him.
No, but Dave Sims did. Dave Sims did. He wrote and drew for 300 issues. And we're going to say this guy broke the record? Like, all right, whatever. Y'all standards is weak. That shit won't fly.
We're going to table that argument for another time when my laptop's not dying. So what I've been reading, I've been reading the oral history of The Daily Show that came out a few years ago, right after Jon Stewart left. It is really fascinating. All kinds of cool tidbits. The Daily Show is as much a part of my social and political awareness as comics are my nerddom. So, pretty cool read for me. What I'm looking forward to reading is Batman Universe number 4 comes out this week. And that has just been a rock-solid series. It is the best Batman book that DC is putting out right now, hands down. Although Batman's Grave by Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch is coming up here pretty quick, assuming it ships.
And Last Night on Earth is going on still, just to...
Shut up.
It's still being published. I'm just messing with you, man. I did forget about it, though. Yeah, that's what I'm most looking forward to, is just this kind of basic, fun, down to earth, cool Batman story that I've really been missing on the regular Batman monthly books for a while now.
I'd like to change my answer to the same as Matt's.
Huzzah!
Solidarity.
And I mean, other than that, just digging in, and I really want to get into some of these indies that you guys are talking about that I just haven't had time to read yet, like The Plot and like Shanghai Red. So they're definitely on my to-do list.
Everybody who will listen, read Shanghai Red.
There you go.
It's amazing. It's like an old Western revenge. It's like an old Western style revenge story about a person who gets sold into slavery. There's a little bit of some interesting, almost gender confusion involved in there. The art is great, and people get fucking shot. It's great.
And that is the best sales pitch I've ever heard. So that's a wrap for us. This has been the fabulous 50th episode of the Comic Watchers Show. I'm your host, Matt. With me has been Nick Osborne, John Jack, Brian Arbizo, and our very special returning guest, Mr. Cody White. Cody, come back anytime your schedule permits. Thank you for listening. We're on SoundCloud. We're on Spotify. We're on just about anything you can imagine with podcasts. And until next time, keep reading funny books because they're awesome. Why not? Bye.